This guy literally had to change the locks in his own house just to stop his sister from leaving her kids at his place like a daycare drop-off zone. I'll give you my thoughts on this at the end of the video, but the part that really got me wasn't the lock change. It was that even after he said no, very clearly, she still showed up, dropped the kids off, and drove off. Like, what was she thinking? So the guy in the story is 31 and works from home. His sister's a bit younger, and she's got 3 kids, which is rough at such a young age, and she's definitely in full-on parenting mode to a point. And from what I can tell, their dad isn't really in the picture in any consistent way. So she's kind of doing it solo, which to be fair is hard, no question there. But somewhere along the way, she seems to have quietly reassigned part of that responsibility to her brother, just gradually. It started the way it always does. It was the classic can you watch them for a bit situation. A quick errand here, a short appointment there, and he said yes, a lot. Mostly because he loves the kids, but also because saying no to family feels way harder than just dealing with the inconvenience in the moment. And you know how that goes. But over time, those quick favours stretch. An hour became an afternoon became an evening, and then suddenly it's things like, hey, I've got plans tonight, can you take them? And again, he keeps saying yes. Not because he has endless capacity, but because he cared and wanted to help, which ironically is exactly what got him into trouble. Because once someone sees that you can handle something, they often assume you will. And there was one day that really stood out. She dropped the kids off in the morning and didn't come back until after midnight. No proper supplies, no real plan, just drop and run type thing. And for me, that just stinks of disrespect. Not telling him when you'll be back, that's just rude. You need a plan to feed 3 kids for lunch and dinner. Usually that's not something you can do spur of the moment unless you have a very well-stocked fridge. But he still managed. Fed them, sorted the bedtime, made it work. But that's kind of the problem, right? Because she knows he'll make it work. But the breaking point comes when he has a really important work presentation. Like, not optional, this is a career impacting kind of thing. He tells her the night before, very clearly, that he cannot help the next day. Reminds her again in the morning. He's stressed, preparing, trying to get in the zone. Like, this is already going above and beyond. He's anticipating her needs and setting very clear boundaries. And those kids are not his responsibility. Yet he still says to her, hey, I can't help out tomorrow if you need it. And then, early that morning, he gets a phone call. She's upset. Daycare fell through, and she just needs a couple of hours. And this time, he actually holds the boundary. He says no. And not a soft no, just no. But then she shows up anyway. Leaves all 3 kids outside his door, knocks, and drives off before he can even get to the door. Like, I'm sorry, but what? And at that point, what's he supposed to do? You can't just leave kids sitting outside. So he brings them in. And he misses the presentation. And it costs him, like, actual consequences. He gets pulled from the project that he's been working on for months. And that's the moment where it stops being family helping family and starts being something else entirely. So later that day, he takes the kids back and finally draws a very hard line. Tells her if she ever does that again, he's calling the police. And her response isn't really concern or an apology. It's more of this kind of passive, disappointed energy. Like he's letting her down. So there's zero appreciation for what he's done for her already. Zero remorse for messing up his work opportunities. So he doesn't argue. He's done at this point. He just goes home and changes the locks because obviously she has a spare key. But it doesn't even end there. The very next day, she shows up again with the kids, tries the key, and it doesn't work. And instead of, I don't know, reassessing the situation, she scratches up his front door with the key and leaves. Just like a little bonus damage on the way out. And even the neighbour notices and checks in. Since then, she's basically ghosted him completely. This guy is absolutely not the asshole. He went above and beyond for his sister, and she took advantage of that and then jeopardised his career. I get that she's clearly overwhelmed. 3 kids with inconsistent support and trying to hold it all together, that's not easy. But you don't get to solve that by just handing your responsibilities to someone else without their consent, especially when they've already said no. And he didn't start off rigid. He was flexible, maybe too flexible. He stepped in, helped out, and made things work again and again. Also, the whole dropping kids off and driving away thing, that's not just inconsiderate. That's a complete removal of choice. He wasn't agreeing to help anymore. He was being forced into it. And I think once you hit that point, something has to change. Because this was becoming my life is more important than yours. Especially disappearing for the whole day without a prior plan in place. What I want to know is, what is she doing when he's looking after the kids? So the lock thing might seem extreme on the surface, but honestly, it feels like the only move left. Because clearly words weren't working. But I'm curious what you think. At what point does helping family cross the line into being taken advantage of? And was changing the locks a fair boundary, or did he go too far? Thanks for judging that one with me on Am I the Arsehole But Zen. Let's see if your verdict changes next time, because it usually does.